every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated, yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times. And only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. On this week's episode of ScaleUp Radio, I talked with Sara Marrett from the HR department. And Sara spoke to us back in March 2020, in fact, as part of a panel discussion talking around the pandemic and the potential effect that it could have on business owners. This time, though, Sara's returned to talk more about her own business and being a business owner herself as part of the HR department franchise covering Worcestershire. And Sara grew dissatisfied with corporate life and had a desire to do better, which crystallised for her in 2014 when she took over and became a franchisee with the HR department. And Sara's built up a number of years' experience since then running her own business, but of course working with lots of other businesses. And we cover as much as we can during our conversation, including things like the benefits of working within a franchisee. Why would you want to buy into a franchise as opposed to starting your own business from scratch? We also talk about the power of the phrase people buy from people and not relying on others to sell your businesses or services for you. So much of it can be down to you. And we also talk about success and what does that mean? Successful business doesn't have to have a massive team. We don't have to scale up and scale up and scale up. And it doesn't have to bring in millions of pounds necessarily. Success is whatever you want it to be. And I thought that it was definitely worth taking a little more time talking with Sara about the people side of our scale-up journey, because that's her area of expertise. That's what she's doing day in and day out with the businesses that she works with. And there's definitely plenty in this episode for you to take away. So let's go over to Sara for her story. So welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Sara Marrett of the HR department. Sara, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Good to be back.
Good. So yes, I think we had a chat. Well, it must be a little while pre-COVID now, I think.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, many moons ago, it feels like.
Good. So do you want to remind us about the HR department and what you do? The clue's a little bit in the name, but
it is, hopefully, yes. Although I think people still see it as PR sometimes for some reason.
Okay.
But yeah, so HR department, I started running the HR department for Worcestershire back about 8.5 years ago now. I can't believe it's gone that quick, to be honest. It's been that long. So before that, I was very much in corporate organisations with sort of 10,000 plus employees. Due to sort of life events going back about 10 years ago, I wanted to come out of the corporate world and therefore was able to join the HR department as director for Worcestershire. So I basically now provide HR support, advice and guidance to SMEs within the Worcestershire area on anything from general employee advice to full contracts, contract clauses, handbooks, and anything in the employee life cycle related, really.
Excellent. And the HR department is a franchise, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we run within the UK and Ireland. There's probably about, it's hard to say now, 75 licensees altogether. All of us CIPD qualified and worked at sort of HR director level previously. So yeah, all experienced, yes.
Good. So working in big corporates 8.5 years ago and beyond, looking back, any regrets?
No, not a one. No, definitely not. I mean, the work-life balance is, although it's still been challenging at times. I mean, with the furlough, I don't think there was a work-life balance still, because trying to get to understand the new announcements and government changes, it was kind of a 24/7 operation then. But outside of that, sort of, my main reason for doing it, other than getting away from the politics and bureaucracy of big corporate organisations, was for my work-life balance. And so, no, I wouldn't change a thing, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not easy. Anybody that's looking to start their own business or go self-employed, don't think that it's easy or an easy way to make a lot of money. It is different to having a guaranteed wage packet each month when you're in a big corporate and a nice company car, to literally having to support yourself and your business. Certainly for the first few years can be challenging. You need to be able to be set up for that, would be my advice, really.
Yeah, and maybe part of your answer we'll touch on this. But what made you decide to buy into a franchise rather than to, say, start from scratch and set up on your own that way?
Yeah, I mean, when I left the corporate world, what I thought about was, what don't I want to do anymore, rather than what's next. It's what isn't next. And I knew I didn't want to go back into a big company, but I wanted to stay in HR because I really enjoy it. I always say HR is a little bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And if you love it, you're in it for life, sort of thing. But if you hate it, you're not in it for very long at all. So I didn't want to get out of HR. Yeah. I guess I wanted to get back into the basics of supporting small businesses. And when I looked at it, I came across the HR department. I hadn't heard of it before. Nobody had mentioned it to me. But I think it gave me, if you don't know where or how to start when you're trying to set up on your own, I think having that franchise support really helps, because they provide me with all the IT support, all the marketing support, how to go about setting up my business, how to go about the account side of things. They didn't give me clients. They don't target me on sales. They keep well away from my business, which is what I really liked. They don't sort of look over your shoulder all the time. They leave you to run your business how you want to run it. If you want to run it 2 days a week, they're absolutely fine with that. If you want to run it 24/7 with a team of 50 people, they're absolutely fine with that. They really just give you the confidence. And I guess from a money point of view, if you're doing your own website and doing your own marketing, from a startup cost point of view, you'd be looking a minimum of £10,000 probably. So to join a franchise that would give you all the support and the branding to do that, I just thought it made sense, really. And I say that the network within the franchise as well. Whilst I've been in the world of HR probably 30 years now, there isn't much I haven't come across, it's fair to say. But if there is, then there's a great network there. Just say, has anybody come across this before? What are your thoughts, etc. So you're not on your own. You've got sounding boards there still, and you still feel part of a team when you need to, but you're not forced into it, which is what I like.
Yeah. And is it a full franchise, or is it a license to operate? It is a full franchise.
Full franchise, yeah.
Okay, good. Can you talk us through a little bit how I'm not asking you for your turnover and all those sort of things, but what how the fee structure works within the HR department? So you paid a license fee up front.
So it's based on territories. So you basically buy a territory. I've actually got 2 territories, because within about 4 months of me starting, I started off with I've just got to try and think back now. HR department, I think it was sort of Worcester, Malvern and Droitwich areas, sort of that M5 corridor bit. And then within 4 months of me starting up, the licensee of the Wyre Forest area was sort of leaving for personal reasons and offered me first refusal to buy her territory as well. Hence how HR department Worcestershire came about, because it's pretty much all the areas in Worcestershire now. So you pay for your territory as a one-off cost, and then you have a monthly management fee that you pay to the centre. It's not based on turnover or anything like that. It's a fixed monthly fee dependent on the number of territories that you've got.
All right. So hence there's no pressure on you. Well, it depends which way you look at it, but there's no pressure from them to either grow the territory to a huge, to a lot of customers.
You've got to cover your costs, basically. Your territory cost is your territory cost and your monthly fee. So you've got to make sure you've got the turnover to cover that. But yeah, other than that, and then that provides me with IT support, all the marketing, let's say, all the branding, legal updates, etc. They provide. Obviously, I do my own CPD anyway, but they provide us with all that as well for that fee. So
you've got marketing assets, but you've got to use them in your own way to find your own clients. They don't provide you with leads.
No. The only leads they will provide me with is if somebody contacts through the website and goes sort of to the central office through the website that's in my territory, then they'll say, oh, this person's made contact, can you contact them? That's what they won't find leads for me or anything. So
very good. So what do you love most about what you do?
I've always liked the fact that you can go into work and plan to do ABC, and you end up with the phone going, with an email coming in, and it goes out the window. I like that reactiveness.
Right.
What I like, and that's always been the same in corporate and everything, what I like now, though, is going in to meet a new client. You can see they're worried about things. They've got a problematic employee. I go in there, speak to them for however long, and just see the relief come off their shoulders, because I'm going to go in and I'm going to help them, and they've got the advice that they now have longed for to deal with this problematic employee that's been sort of dragging them or their business down. So that's what I get out of it the most, is just seeing that relief on people. We've got someone that can help us.
Great. Great. And what frustrates you perhaps the most about your industry or about what you do?
That's a difficult one. It's probably going to sound bad, but sometimes other HR people. My worst nightmare is going into a room of HR people, and that sounds really bad, but I like to think I'm quite commercially minded from a HR point of view.
Yeah.
I'm not an ivory tower HR person. I'm not a what does your handbook say kind of person. I'm very much what do you want as an outcome? What does the business need? And find a legal and practical way to get them there, rather than just, well, no, the handbook says you can't do that, or the policy says you can't do that, because I don't think that's helpful at all. And there are a lot of HR professionals and practitioners out there that will apply that. So it's sort of HR people sat in their ivory towers, not being aware of the commercial needs of the business or the client.
Okay. So you mentioned the HR department provide the marketing materials and the website. How much do they define about how much you can charge, the services you can offer, all of those kind of things?
They give a sort of fee structure guideline, again, for people that are new coming into it, I guess, that haven't got a clue, or what do you charge for it, etc. So they give those guidelines, but I sort of have my own pricing structure and things now, and it's always based on the number of employees within a company, because a lot of it is based on the insurance that they can get. But in terms of additional services, they work with quite a few third-party providers if we want to use them. So there's providers that will provide companies with, or clients with, a HR database to do their payroll, to do EAPs, employer assistance programs, private medical and things. So there's all those third-party providers there, should we wish to call on them if our clients want them as well. But we don't have to use them. Yeah. We can go to our preferred suppliers if we want to as well. So they do provide all of that, though. Yeah.
All right. And I imagine there's a few people listening to this, and I know clearly it's one of the big decisions when people are thinking about setting up a business. But that choice between setting up as a franchise, buying into a franchise, or setting up on their own. So what sort of things would you recommend, maybe with a bit of hindsight, a bit of experience, haven't done it, would you recommend people think about, or the kind of questions they should ask, the things they should look for if they're thinking of buying into a franchise?
I think it's similar questions to what you've asked me, really, is, you know, are they going to be strictly watched, strictly governed, targeted on their sales? You know, how much involvement is the franchise going to have in their day-to-day business, etc.? What are they getting for their money? If it's a monthly fee, what do they get for that? Like I say, any additional services on top, and how much do they cost? You know, what's included, but more importantly, what isn't included that they might still need? And also sort of have a look in the market as well, if they can do some comparisons with, you know, because there's a lot of franchise companies and organisations out there now, and some, you know, charge an extortionate amount of money. So I think just doing a little bit of market research, say, okay, well, what others are there that offer the same sort of franchise structure? What's the difference, etc. And go and meet them as well. You know, I had a number of face-to-face meetings with the HR department's MD before I signed up and things. So yeah. Good. And as you say, there are a lot of franchise out there. There's also a lot of HR companies out there, aren't there? So how does the HR department help you to differentiate yourself from everybody else that's out there? I think branding helps a lot. I think the turnaround of documents and things that they can provide us with, again, with the furlough thing and COVID, you know, they were working through the night as well to help provide us with the documentation, all the legal updates and things like that, in our branding, in layman's terms, not making it legalistic. I think there's a lot of sort of HR firms, not talking about sort of individuals, but, you know, other sort of organisations that operate on a call centre basis, you know, which isn't my preference at all, which means that businesses can be talking to a different person on a different day for the same issue, etc. So it's making it, I think, very personal and very individual basis, if you like, that personal touch for clients. Yeah.
Okay, good. So tell me about the stage that you've got the business to and your ambitions for the business.
Yeah, so I'm happy with where my business is at the minute. You know, I never wanted it to be a business where I was employing lots of people, because I think, to take my own advice, that brings its own headaches and things. And also sort of having that responsibility for making sure you can pay people and things as well. I think that's a lot of added pressure. Yeah. The size that I've got my business to now means I can still be very flexible. If, you know, my daughter needs taking anywhere or dropping anywhere and things, then that's given me the time and opportunity to do that. So I run my business two ways, really. I have what's called retained clients.
Okay.
Clients that pay me a fixed monthly fee. And for that, they get unlimited advice from myself, either over the phone or via email. And I've probably got around 50 retained clients now, I would say, which is great. I'm still taking on new clients on that basis as well. I've got a new client last week, but I'm not actively networking and things anymore, it'd be safe to say. And I think, you know, for anybody that is just starting out, I would encourage them massively to network as much as they can, as many different things, and then apply a filter, you know, review and filter it down so that then they're quite selective with the handful of networking events that they do. Other than a couple of things, I don't actively network anymore. All my work is done through referrals generally. Right. I don't advertise my services anywhere generally. I don't have a marketing budget per se to get anything flyers out there. It is all generally word of mouth and referrals, which is a great thing to be in. So in terms of the size, I'm happy how it is now. I can take on more, but I said I'm not actively or aggressively trying to get more. I also work on a pay-as-you-go basis. So I've got a number of clients, significant number of clients that, you know, they, due to their employee numbers, etc., they don't necessarily warrant being retained, but as and when they need me, then there'll be a fee that I apply to them. Yeah. And they're repeat business as well. You know, a lot of them are repeat pay as you go, but still just don't warrant, if it's only once or twice a year, they don't warrant going on a retained basis. And I'm perfectly happy with both of those structures.
Brilliant. So we know one of the biggest challenges for businesses trying to scale up are all around people. Mm-hmm. Let's start with what you see as the key challenges that the companies you're working for are having. What are the kind of common things that you get called in to help deal with?
It varies really. Fortunately, it's not a huge amount of disciplinaries or things like that. Recruitment is actually one of the biggest challenges, I would say, at the minute. Recruitment is really hard across all industries, across all levels of roles within an organisation. Recruitment is really hard. I think people are staying where they are. I think it's very much an employee marketplace. They can pick and choose quite easily because there's a fair amount of jobs out there currently. Obviously that may well change over the next coming 12 months, which I think is going to be the next people challenge if there is a recession, etc. But yeah, I would say it's recruitment is the work I'm doing most with people, and I think people need to think about, you know, just because somebody leaves, don't automatically replace like with like. Make sure you have a review of, you know, the role, the business, what it needs, etc., if anything needs to change. And I think sort of the hybrid working is quite an incentive for people that are looking for work. I've been working with a client doing interviews, and that's one of the main questions that now comes up is there an opportunity for hybrid working? People are looking for that. And I think if it comes down to two businesses, two roles that they're choosing, if one is offering hybrid and one isn't, then I think the preference would be to go with the hybrid ones for sure.
Okay. So definitely finding, yes, and we're seeing that a lot, is finding people. So that recruitment side is a real challenge. We hear a lot, maybe led more so by in the States, but we're seeing some of it here, I think, in terms of, you know, we're hearing about this great resignation, aren't we, or whatever. So are we seeing much of that here in terms of people deciding to leave their jobs because there's so many others out there that maybe look a bit more attractive?
In my experience with my clients, one client who's had no turnover whatsoever in sort of the 6 or 7 years I've been working with them, has now sort of had 3 people resign. Right. But it's to pursue different careers. Okay. So one has gone from sort of a supply chain role to be a SAP consultant. Okay. You know, one has gone from being a sort of a quality type role to go and work for the NHS. So I think with COVID has certainly changed people, I would say. Yeah. And I think it's made them sort of stop and rethink what they're doing, what they want to be doing. So I don't think it's necessarily that people are upset with their current employer, because I think they do feel quite valued, and those that were well looked after during COVID and furlough and things, that loyalty is definitely there. But I just think it's more a case of what I had really, what don't I want to do, and just have a bit of a rethink of their careers, what they want to be doing longer term. Yeah. Good advice. And one of those other aspects that we see as a big challenge for businesses as they scale, even relatively small numbers of people, is keeping those levels of engagement really high, and having people that really want to help out, want to and almost act and behave as the business owner would want to, you know, in their shoes. Yeah. What do you think about that, and maybe the hybrid working and the challenges around COVID and all of that? What do we need to do differently, maybe from a employee engagement perspective, do you think? I think having regular reviews, meetings, call them what you want, with your employees, face to face. Certainly, everyone's a bit zoomed out, I think, now. But yeah, just re-engaging with them, making sure that, you're having those face-to-face meetings. Try and do some team events and things if you can, if budgets allow. It doesn't have to be anything excessive, but, even if it's just a night out at the escape rooms or something like that, or a team meal or something like that. Just try and make things a bit more fun. I think that certainly helps with employee engagement. But just going back to my previous point about people in their careers, it's having that conversation with them, to understand and hear, what do they want from their career? Are they looking for further development? How can they achieve that, within the business? What further training could you provide to them to sort of help maintain their loyalty and things like that?
Yeah, and a question is a bit linked to that, but one that's come up quite a lot with some of the clients that we're working with is people coming in and saying, we've got this cost of living rise, our utility bills and everything else is going up. Obviously our fuel costs if we are traveling. I need a pay rise. Yeah,
that is happening a lot, an awful lot, and I think, like I say, there's some really harsh challenges for certain businesses coming over the next 12 months, and affordability is certainly going to be one. But yeah, there is an expectation that the pay rises need to be higher. You only have to look at the strike action that's taking place all over the country at the minute. It is a challenge, but I think, businesses shouldn't make a knee-jerk reaction either way on pay rises. They really need to look at affordability, because they have to be able to sustain that pay rise. But also, it's the old saying, money isn't necessarily a motivator, but it can be a demotivator. Yeah. So you need to find that balance and other ways of perhaps helping employees out, whether it's through discount schemes or things like that, where they'll benefit from things, but it won't necessarily hit the bottom line to a huge extent.
You mentioned benefits and things, or perks or whatever. Do we have any information as to what kind of incentives work really well, other than, because as you say, financial incentives can be a big demotivator, but not really a motivator. They might have a very short-term effect. What other sort of things are employees really looking for and valuing?
I think pensions will always be valued. Right. So if there's anything that people can do on their pensions, then that's always good. Additional holidays, just simple things like giving employees a day off on their birthday that they don't have to take out of their usual holiday entitlement. But if their birthday falls on a Saturday or Sunday, give them and say, we can either have the Friday or the Monday, just things like that. Getting pizzas in on a Friday or something. And I said about the discount schemes, obviously there's companies out there that provide and will manage all of the discounts for you, but you can get things like gym discount membership, you can get things like cinema discounts for tickets and things like that. The whole massive range of things that employees really do appreciate.
And don't necessarily need to impact the bottom line too heavily. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just things like flu vaccinations. I've got clients that work with Boots or whoever to provide free flu vaccinations for their employees, and that's a two-way benefit. I see it as, you're helping your employees, but you're also helping yourselves from an absence point of view if you haven't got everybody going down with seasonal flu. So.
Okay. So some really good things there. So what sort of size companies do you tend to work with? So those 50 or so that you've got as retained clients, what's the mix of size of companies?
It's a real mix, to be honest. I have retained clients with employee numbers around as low as 5. And sort of when I have a discussion with them, they sort of say, well, it's a no-brainer because it's peace of mind for them. You have somebody at the end of the phone, at the end of the email, it's just peace of mind, and they're happy to pay that. And then my larger ones, I guess my largest one is probably around 65 employees, whereby I can offer on-site support. So I'm there, maybe one day a month or a couple of days a month. I'm on site a day a week. So I can provide, as their HR face, if you like, and do all of their HR on-site support, and everything in between. I guess the average size is probably around maybe 20, 25.
Okay. And how do you see the differences and the challenges that they're facing with their people changing as they go then? So if you've got clients as at the 5 sort of employee level, but also up at the 60, what would you see as some of the differences and the challenges that they're facing?
Well, obviously, the more employees you've got, the more likelihood that there's going to be a bad apple,
Right.
or perhaps absence issues or general performance issues, people underperforming and things. But with the sort of the teams of 5, sometimes it can be more of a cultural issue, because they haven't necessarily either been around long enough or have clear sort of identity, what their culture wants to be, so that there can be some personality clashes within the team. So that sometimes can be about people's recruitment process. It's not always about getting somebody that can do the job and's got all the right qualifications. It's just as or more important that they will fit with the team you either currently have or are planning to have in the future.
Okay. And what are I'm wondering, with all the businesses that you see, whether there's a couple of examples of best practice or things you consider to be really clever or great that some of your companies are doing with their people, and anything stand out? Do you think, they're doing that really well? That's a great approach.
Yeah, I think there's one that stands out that I do on-site support for that's got a real team ethos. They've got around just under 40 employees, but they have their sort of own sports and social committee, so about 3 or 4 employees within the company, all to volunteer to be the sort of the sports and social committee, and so they schedule pretty much every month an event for the company to do, and obviously it's completely voluntary if people want to do it or not, whether it's sort of some charity work, some volunteering work, or a day out at the races or a day at the cricket, or we used to do dragon boat racing, put a team in that each year, and just fun things to do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do a family barbecue every year up at the Countryside Centre, just fun things for people to do to involve their family as well. 0 cost to the employee. The company always funds it, but people love it, and everybody knows everybody knows everyone's family because of the gatherings that happen, and it's really inclusive, and I think that works well.
And what do you see as some of the spin-off benefits of that within the business?
I think relationships that teams have with each other, they're close inside work, they're close outside work, so I think that breeds retention. Yeah. Because people aren't then leaving a job, they're leaving a friend or a team, a really strong team that they've built. So that cohesiveness, I think, is really strong, really strong.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. No, some really good things there. And I thought, given your area of expertise, it would be great to drill a little bit further down into some of the people side of things. So just a couple of things that really like to ask everybody that we talk to, and one of those is you've already touched upon it, but again, one of the other challenges of scaling a business is getting to the point where we've got a reliable stream of on-profile leads that we can convert into actual paying customers. So what have you found works the best for you?
I think if it's your business, you need to be the face of that business. Don't rely on others. If you have got a team or whatever, don't rely necessarily on others to sell your business. Yeah. People buy people, I think, no matter what industry it is. So, make sure as the owner of the business, you're the one that's out there networking, meeting people. You're the one that goes to prospective client new meetings and things like that. You're the one that prepares the pitch, the presentation, the sales documents, etc., so that you know inside out what discussions have been had with that client, etc.
Okay, and you mentioned that I think you mentioned earlier that referrals or word of mouth is your best. Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily that sort of fits all businesses, but in the world of HR, you're relying on someone's sort of knowledge and expertise, I suppose. And I don't think you can get that with a flyer put through the door. You can only get that with, getting to know the person, because it's a lot about trust.
Yeah.
Anybody could say, they could go out there and say, oh, I know about employment law, etc. And, everybody knows somebody who's either a lawyer or a solicitor or HR director or something. But I think, only by getting to know a person and hearing about them and their background and their experience, we think, oh, actually, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Therefore, I'm going to use her. And that wouldn't work with a flyer.
Yeah. Therefore, the word of mouth gets you quite a long way up that trust ladder or staircase, doesn't it? And how do you strengthen that? What's the first couple of things that you will do with a new prospect to get them to experience you and start to build that trust?
Well, now outside COVID again is meet them, and I think building that relationship, understanding face to face what challenges they've got or they think they've got, trying to alleviate some of that, put in some quick fixes in for them, even if it's just about, tightening up their contracts. I'll go in, I'll review a contract that's maybe 2 or 3 pages and say, well, that's kind of the minimum. That doesn't protect you as a business. So, I would recommend these clauses to protect you as a business. Again, in layman's terms, not a legally worded document, but in layman's terms, just making sure that they've got the basics in place, really. Yeah. And a lot of them feel like bad, like, oh, no, we're terrible, we've not got this in place. And it's just trying to make them say, no, you haven't, but a lot of places haven't. But you're doing the right thing now by getting those things in place. Forget about what you haven't had in the past. Let's get you to a good base level point, and then we can start working on the other things. So just trying to review with them sort of what's in place, what they think they need, what I think they need, issues that they've got, problematic, because everyone has generally got one problematic employee, and just kind of let them get away with things because they don't know how to tackle them. So it's just having discussions around that individual as well, early days.
So do you do any kind of audit as such at the beginning? Is that something that you do? I guess
yes, but unofficially. I don't go in with a clipboard and a tick box, because that's not my style, and that's, I wouldn't want to do that. But yes, I do it, but in my own way, I suppose. I know in my experience and my background what they need to have in place. So I talk them through that, but in a non-official audit way, I suppose, because I touch on GDPR with them and things as well from a HR perspective, but not in a tick box sort of way.
Oh, okay, good. And what sort of things how do you decide or whether you've had a good month or a good quarter? What sort of measures do you look at to keep your finger on the pulse of the business?
I guess obviously I get another good piece of advice I'd give to people sort of starting out is, when you can afford it, get a good bookkeeper and or accountant. Don't try and do it all yourself on an Excel spreadsheet, because they're the ones, again, that will provide you with, good reports, your monthly management report, etc. And there's an awful lot of obviously bookkeepers and accountants out there, but find ones that are proactive for you. They're not standoffish. They will engage with you, etc. Because, and I guess that's my way of keeping the measure on it. I get a good monthly management report, with all my statements of accounts, profit and loss, and things like that, and that's what I use to review it. But I also, I look at my business account daily on a daily basis. So, and you can set that up with things when things are coming in, when things are going out. So, all the time, there shouldn't be any surprises for you with your business, I think.
All right, good. And if we were sat here having this conversation in possibly another 5 years, I don't think it was quite 5 years ago that we had the first one, but if we sat here in 5 years' time, where do you want to be? What would you say has to have happened professionally and personally for you to consider those 5 years a success?
Well, other than winning the lottery, which I don't do, obviously.
I say that, but I don't even enter it.
That's exactly. I don't even know the last time I bought a lottery ticket, so that's not going to happen. I think it's about having a comfortable life, being able to do the things, not stupid things, but basic things that you want to do, etc. Being able to provide for my family still. Those are the sort of things. 5 years, am I likely to be doing the same thing? Yes, probably. You know, I'm not looking to retire just yet.
Yeah.
But again, I still, you know, at the age then, I'll be mid-50s then. I don't still then want to be taking on employees and responsibilities with that. I'm happy sort of on my own. Am I stretched at times? Yes, probably too stretched. Other licenses say to me, how many clients have you got? How do you do that on your own? But that's how I work, and maybe it's because I'm a control freak as well. I don't know, but you know, I like to be the contact for my clients and things like that as well. So probably quite boring, but
and you've also we touched on it before we went on air actually, but you've got although you do all of the HR side of things, you have found a way to support the other activities of the business.
Yeah, I do have really strong admin support, and I've been able to take my daughter on this year as well to do some admin support for me. You know, it's just the basic admin. They don't get involved in any of the advice side of things or dealing with the clients, but the background admin support, which obviously there's quite a bit with retained agreements and things like that. Yeah, I get those involved in. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've clearly decided what's the right size of business for you and how you want it to be. And it's about making sure then that you're running that as well as possible rather than scaling for the sake of scaling.
Yeah. Rather than the expectation is there, you know, for businesses to grow and grow and grow. Yeah. I think there's different ways they can grow. But mine certainly isn't going to be from an employee-based point of view.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point actually. You know, so although this, you know, this called ScaleUp Radio and this kind of support that we do is all around helping people to scale up, part of that is actually knowing what's the right milestone to reach, the right level that you want to stop at, and then how you want the business to be, how you want it to look like, how you want to run at that point, and not just continually grow just because you feel like you have to keep growing and adding.
Absolutely, 100%. Or, you know, you feel others have that expectation on you or whatever. You know, you need to run your business how you feel you want to run it, not how others are trying to tell you should run it. And I think that comes back to having a good support around you, people that understand what you're trying to do, but most importantly, why you're trying to do it. Okay. And like I said, you know, a lot of it is not to make a lot of money quickly or anything like that, because that never really works, but it's about your whole philosophy about your business, really, I think you need to get to grips with.
Brilliant. Really good. And if we were to go back 8.5 years when you first started, with the benefit of hindsight, and I know this is a really unfair question, but you know, what would you do differently, or what advice would you give to yourself at that point, with the benefit of all of your experience since then?
I think it comes with sort of the networking and things like that. I think it's about, don't think you need to be involved in everything. Right. So I know I said about, you know, network widely and things, that's different. But in terms of, you know, maybe sponsoring things, or, you know, just watch your finances early days, because the priority is obviously paying your outgoings and being able to have a salary yourself. So, and I think that comes down to sort of, you know, keeping an eye on your books and being aware of what's coming in and what's going out at all times. And I think it's what would I have done differently? I'm not sure there is an awful lot I would have done differently, to be honest. If I look back, I was pleased with the networking that I did and the contacts that I've built and maintained since then as well. Some really good close contacts. And, you know, I think it comes back to that, you know, because you can feel on your own when you're running your own business. And I think having that good network of contacts that you can just phone up if you're having a bad day and things and have a moan to, they get it, you know, and you wouldn't necessarily do that with your family, I don't think. So, you know, build that strong network that you're not just selling to or being sold to all the time, but are just generally a good team of small team of people that you can vent and things to, and be there for them to vent as well.
Brilliant. Good. And are there any other kind of things that, from a support perspective? So you mentioned people, but any books, any podcasts, anything that you would recommend that others might find useful?
No, to be honest, I'm not a big book reader or anything like that. I've been always much more of a practical person than a theorist person, I guess.
Yeah.
So personally, no, there weren't any specific books that I would advise or recommend.
Okay. And what sort of apps do you find useful in your business, or that you've seen working really well with some of your clients?
Just the finance ones, I guess, really. I think having all your banking apps and things, and your accountancy apps, and apps for your receipts and things like that are the main ones that I use, to be fair.
Yeah, good. Brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, Sara, and I think some really good conversations we had in the middle there around the people side of things and the challenges that we're all facing in our kind of business. I think some really, really useful advice there. So thank you very much for your time and advice, Sara. If people would like to get hold of you and find out more about what you can offer, or maybe more generally about the HR department, what's the best way for them to do that, Sara?
They can email me. So my email address is sara.marrett@hrdept.co.uk, or they can contact me direct on my mobile, which is 07736 204 789.
Brilliant. We'll put that in the show notes. So, Sara, thank you very much indeed for being my guest.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to speak to you.
Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.